Start your show now. Press
I'm
1.
the messenger, y'all stepping out.
Your show is scheduled to start in 28 seconds.
But out here the jakes will shoot you. The judges judge for hire, the juries are straight liars. Just to see Israel fried up. They got our phones tapped and wired up. The police got you stuck. No one desires us. This law requires us to buy this man's trust. Pay to get salvation. Who you playing?
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
And that's the attitude from your murderous plight, from your rapists every night. And young boys shot down in the street in they mama's sight. Your overseers call this the good life, like the hood's right. Rep Zion, that's right. Y'all's way, that's life. The ships of Tarshish, the glory of Lebanon will offload to YAH'S land. That's what we stepping on. The next plane won't miss the Pentagon. The bees is dying, Florida is drying. Look like death coming to Babylon. The nation about to be born. A pure language giving the call on the name of Yah. All people will serve the sun, the black supremacist. No hippie on the stick, looking like Dennis the Menace. The demon is finished. When the wicked fall, the meek increase. Israel is free. Rejoice in the death of the beast. The resurrection of Yah's people. All your children will be righteous. Walking in Yah's likeness, mirth and happiness. All glory in the land that Yah is blessed. See the truth manifest in Yah's elect.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, by saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous, Yah is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. Once again, the Creator has allowed us to come before you another day, bringing to you his great, holy, and exalted words, even the words of truth. My name is Mowreh IshYAH YIsraEL of the House of Israel, located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 2230 Kemper Lane, bringing to you nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All we're going to do is tell you the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth, and this is what I'm going to do. And who is this Yah? Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and YIsraEL, whom you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is our king, he's our judge, he's our lawgiver, and Yah is our only savior, and not just of Israel. Yah is the savior of the world. And I praise the mighty Yah once again for allowing us to come before you another day, bringing to you his great, holy, and exalted words. Again, today we will continue on talking about how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And of course, we haven't yet experienced this very good and pleasant thing. Maybe in incidents we have experienced this, but collectively and as a whole, we have not experienced this good thing. When we really look at songs, and I may add, we want to experience this, but to experience this, we first must understand exactly what it means. If we go back to Psalms 133, how important this is, in Psalms 133, again, it says, "Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." The word unity comes from the Hebrew word yakad. The word one comes from the Hebrew word echad. They're very closely related to one another. So closely related, you only can differentiate them really through vowels. But for the most part, they look exactly the same almost. One is echad, one is yakad. And we find that yakad means together or unity. Now watch this. Now let's read it with a little bit more insight and understanding. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in together. In other words, you're dwelling together by being together. Because you can be together, and I may add that word together right before it says unity, come from the same Hebrew word yakad. So in Hebrew, it would actually say, "Behold, how good, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell yakad in yakad." In other words, by being together, dwelling together in togetherness. Because as you know, you can be dwelling together, you can be living together, which is one type of yakad, one type of unity, but you can have total disunity, total disorganization, and in our case, total discord. But we want the pleasant or the good and pleasant thing that comes from Yakad. How do we get it? How do we start it? How do we promote it? How? Of course, the easy answer is you got to follow the Most High. You got to keep his ways. You got to do his commandments, execute his laws, honor his covenants. This is the simple truth and the simple, easy answer. But then you got to get to the details, because there's details one must have in order for them to have the wisdom to be able to fulfill the word of Yahweh. So how do we fulfill it? My son, Mowreh Napthtali, often says, and he's correct, by pointing out the fact that as an Israelite, we have to have a heart of a servant. And that's not even a suggestion, nor is it some type of wise saying. That's the law, where the Creator tells us to have the heart of a servant, because we have been servants in another man's land before. That's why Yahweh tells us to love the stranger. So we got to have a certain type of heart. And that type of heart is a servant, because we are the servants of Yahweh. But here's the thing. Even though we have to have a heart of a servant, in other words, we are a kingdom of priests, a messenger of Yahweh. So our job, a priest, is one who serves the people. A priest is one who serves the Most High. A priest is the one that makes sure everything is straight and in order. And that's the type of heart that we have to have. We have to make sure everything is straight, and we have to make sure everything in order. But this is the dynamic about this thing. Even though we're supposed to have a heart of a servant, we also must have the mind of a king. You may ask, why would I say that? A heart of a servant, but the mind of a king. Because you got to look and see the responsibility of a king. Watch this in the book of Proverbs 25. And we're talking about Psalms 133, how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. In other words, the heart of a servant is one that is humble, who's meek, have humility. But the mind of a king is what you're about to read. And watch what it says in Proverbs 25, verse 1 and 2. These are the Proverbs of Solomon. And who was Solomon? A king, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Yehuda, copied out. This is what kings copied out. These are the things that they copied, went by, studied, searched out. And why? Why would they do such a thing? Watch the second verse. It is the glory of Elohim to conceal a thing. In other words, Yahweh frequently hides things. He made things a secret. But watch what it says. But the honor of kings is to search out a matter. So if you want to have a mind of a king, you got to be willing to study. You got to be willing to search things out. You can't just come off the cuff. You got to be willing to put the real work of wisdom into the craft of ruling. And this is what a man is supposed to be. A man is supposed to be a ruler. He rules his family. He has dominion. So he's got to be of the mind of a king, where he's searching matters out. Because Yahweh will conceal a thing. Watch one of the things that David told his son before he died. My daughter asked me this. And this is what she asked me. And you'll find this in the book of 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter. And show you how important this is into the discussion that we're talking about. Because how can you have any type of unity, any type of yakah, any type of togetherness just by accident? No, this is something that you have to put your mind to if you want true unity. In putting your mind to it, you got to be willing to search things out. Watch what it says. 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter. And I'm going to start reading at the very first verse. And this is what it says. Now the days of David drew near that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. And watch what he tell his son. Be you strong, therefore, and show yourself a man. Here it is. We tell our little boys, we say, look here, man, it's time to man up. But Solomon was no old man. When Solomon became king, he was young. He was young. And his father David had to tell him, look here, man, it's time to man up. Because now you got to wear the big boy shoes. Now you stepping into a man's world. Now you're going to be ruling, having dominion, and doing things and making decisions that can affect everybody. So now it's time for you to show yourself a man. And there's come a time where every boy must begin to show himself a man. And how do you show yourself a man? Watch what it says. And keep the charge of Yahweh, your Elohim, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moshe, that you may prosper in all that you do, wherever you turn yourself. And that's what we must do in our communities, in our congregations, but most important, in our own houses. This is what we must do. We got to show ourselves a man. And I know it sounds easy, but it is not. not when you had the responsibilities of making the crooked things straight. Because that's one of the charges that Yahweh has placed on men, especially a man of Elohim. You got to show yourself a man. Look what the Creator said he will do in the last days. And yes, we're still talking about, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. But first, you got to change the way you think. And I'm about to show you why. And once you change the way you think, then you're going to have to show yourself a man. Because a lot of changes got to be made. Watch the prophecy that must take place. And you'll read about it in the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter. And we're going to start reading at the 6th verse. And watch what it says. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And why is a child born? Why is a son given? And who is the us? Well, the us is Israel. And who is this child? And we know who this child is. It ain't JC. This is David. And why? The same David that charged his son Solomon to show yourself a man. Watch what it says. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom. And the first thing you got to do upon the throne, upon his kingdom, upon establishing it, is to order it, to establish it with judgment and with justice from now on, even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this. In other words, in order for you to have any type of chance at any unity, any togetherness, you must have order. You must have things put together. This is the only way you can have unity and brethren dwelling together in unity. You got to have order. And right now, we don't have no order. Everything is out of order. And that's why David told Solomon, show yourself a man. Why? Because now you about to do some man stuff. You got to put things back in order. And this is what a man have to do today. He have to put everything back in its proper order. How else can things be together? How else can you have unity? Our people are accustomed to discord, disorder, disunity, discomfort. They're not accustomed to anything that's in order. Matter of fact, order looks strange and really look like it's wrong. That's how much order or out of order we are. Because the order that we have, or the order that we're supposed to have, it don't exist today. And here it is. We've been bringing to you everything in order, such as the 7 everlasting covenants, such as the 12 or the 7 requirements of Yahweh, such as the 10 keys of righteousness, the 10 plagues, in order, so that you might know them, so that you can have some type of order in your everyday life. And with this order comes unity, because everybody doing the same thing. Showed you the state of the condition that we find ourselves in right now. Oh, right before I show you that, let me show you one more scripture about how you got to have order. You got to have the mind of a king. Watch this in the book of Proverbs 31. I want you to see this. Not only Proverbs 2 let you know it is the glory of Elohim to conceal a matter, but it's for the honor of kings to search it out. King David said to his son, show yourself a man. Well, how'd you do that when you just a little boy? Well, you can. You just have to have order. Watch what it says in the book of Proverbs 31. The very first verse. The words of King Lemuel, or Lemuel. And let me tell you, this name Lemuel is not a name at all. This is just the type of person that belongs to the Most High, because that's what the name Lemuel means. It means belonging to Elohim. The words of King Lemuel. The prophecy that his mother told him. What, my son? And what? The son of my womb. And what? The son of my vows. And why is his mother teaching him this type of prophecy? Well, his mother was married to a king. His mother was the mother of a king. And who would know how to serve a king? Who would know how to be a king better than the king's wife? She know. She deal with a king every day. And she's telling her son how to think like a king. And in her speech, she also will let him know how also to have a heart of a servant. Watch what it says. The third verse. The very first thing she telling, I'll read the second verse again. What, my son? And what the son of my womb? And what the son of my vows? Verse 3, give not your strength unto women. Now, why would she say that when she is a woman? Well, because she know women. She's one. And her son is a king, which means her husband is a king. Give not your strength unto women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. And that's one of the things that will destroy a king, because a king got to be all about one thing and one thing only, and that is about the Most High. He can't have his mind distracted and altered about other things, because too many things depends on him executing the order in which Israel, his community, his household must have unity. And if he don't have unity, then how can unity exist? And the king don't have it. If he don't have everything all together, if he don't have everything yakad, then nothing will be yakad. Watch what it says. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink. In other words, what is she telling him? Look here, you got to watch what you do. Everything you do matters. Give strong drink, or it's fifth verse, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. So your mind always got to be about the law. You always got to be about having order. And yes, that is very difficult to do. It's very difficult to always have your mind straight while everybody else's mind is carelessly. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine to those that are heavy hearts. Let him drink, forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Open your mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open your mouth, judge righteously, plead the cause of the poor and the needy. In other words, you got poor and needy every day. So your mind got to always be straight. So you don't have a day where you can just let up and say, well, today I'm going to be a fool. Because as a man, especially a man of Elohim, you got to show yourself a man. You got to have it all together, which that's exactly what yakad means, having it together. And if you got it together, then you can command, you can demand that everybody else have it together. But how can you command and demand this thing? How can you have any order and you don't have order? Order starts with you. That's why Yahweh said a son is born, a son shall be given. And he got to establish order. He got to order it. He got to establish it. That's how Yahweh's kingdom must come about, through order and establishment. And this only happens through unity. And just so you can see why you must have the mind of a king, heart of servants. See, watch, I'm showing you the state of condition that we find ourselves in today. So the words that David told his son show yourself a man is even more important today, or as important today as it was then. Watch this in the book of Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, so you can see what I'm telling you, how important this thing is. Because as I said before, you're not going to have no unity if you don't have no order. If everything is out of order, how's that unity? How's that all together? That's not together at all. That's not good and pleasant by no stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, the things that we think are good and pleasant today are not pleasant and good today. They're not at all. We look at our houses today and we'll swear up and down they're good and they're pleasant, and they far from it. Our houses are totally out of order. Our community is totally out of order. Many of the congregations are out, most of them, if not all of them, are out of order. And why? Well, let me show you. In the book of Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, watch what the Creator said in the very 3rd chapter, the 1st verse. For behold, Yahweh of hosts does take away from Jerusalem and from Yehudah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread, the whole stay of water. And watch what it says. The mighty man, the man of war, the judge, and the prophet, and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50, the honorable man, the counselor, and the skillful craftsman, and the eloquent orator. In other words, any man that's supposed to be a man of honor, a man of responsibility, a man of renown. Watch what he said about these men and what he would do in the 4th verse. And I will give children to be their princes. In other words, the men that's supposed to be ruling, Yahweh said he's going to get children to be their princes. And babies shall rule over them. In other words, the people that rule our communities in the black community are not the adults. It's the babies, it's the children, it's the teenagers, people that ain't even reach adulthood. They run in the schools, they run in the communities, they run in everything. And they running it right down to the ground. Now certain communities, you can't even walk in these communities. You can't live in these communities. Certain schools you don't never even want to send your children to because they so run down by the children that's in them. Even though there's adults in the schools, even though there's adults in the communities, you don't run them, you don't control them, you don't rule them. Watch what it says. And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. And this is what's going on today. There's nothing for a little child to look at an adult and sass him and look at him like he crazy. Or tell him, you can't tell me nothing. I do what I want to do. They would say all kind of insolent words to adults. Yes, little kids. Where did they get so bold? How did they get so insolent? How did they become so bad where now they can tell an adult to shut up, or tell an adult no, or tell an adult anything out of their mouth other than yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. Where did they get this from? Well, they got it from the house. They got it from the home that they growing up in. And they took this thing to the school. They took this thing out in the streets. They took this thing everywhere they learned in the home. And let me show you that they learned it in the home. In the 12th verse of this same chapter, Isaiah 3, and we think we have everything in order. And we got unity. How are you going to have unity and you don't have nothing together? And the word unity means together. Watch what it says in Isaiah 3 and 12. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead you cause you to err and destroy the way of your paths. This is where they learning that. They learning it right in the home. And yes, women are ruling, and this is totally out of order. I know the women don't like us talking about that and saying that because they believe that they smart enough to rule. Well, I'm smart enough to rule. Then if you're smart enough to rule, then why is everything so out of order? And you're the one ruling. Most households in the black community today is ran by women. So where is the unity? Why ain't the homes all together? And then a lot of women who got men still want to rule. Well, I got opinion too, and I got something to say about this, and I got something to say about that. And now there's no unity. There's total division in the home. And we send these children right out into the schools, into the communities, into the streets with that disunity. Now they feel like they can talk and say the same thing because you modeled it for them. And therefore, there's no honor now. And what you thought was, I am honoring you. You thinking in your mind, I am honoring you. You're not honoring nobody. You done learned these bad statutes so long, you don't even know what honor look like. Because things are totally out of order. But Yahweh said he will make the crooked things straight. And everything got to be put back in order. And Yahweh will send his servant to do just that. And I'm telling you now, that's exactly what we've been doing. We the only ones been teaching about order. Because Yahweh teach about order. Furthermore, you got to have a mind of a king. And why? Because a king will produce standards. And this is prophecy. This is prophecy. Let me show you this. Watch this in the book of Isaiah 49. Since we're in Isaiah. Standards is not going to come from no children. Standards is not even going to come from the women. This will only come from the mind of a king because Yahweh put standards in the mind of a king. And I'm not talking about a literal king. I am talking about a literal king, but I'm also speaking about a spiritual king. That's what the name Mowreh or Lemuel is all about. Old King Lemuel. In other words, that just means belonging to Elohim. And once you belong to Elohim, then you start thinking differently. Watch what it says in the book of Isaiah 49, just so you can see what I'm talking about. The 22nd verse. Thus says Yahweh, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles and set up my standard to the people. And they shall bring your sons in their arms. Your daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. And kings shall be your nursing fathers. Their queens, your nursing mothers. And while with the king, their kings and their queens start nursing and aiding you, because Yahweh will set up a standard. And the standard is all the nations are supposed to serve us. We don't supposed to serve them. They supposed to serve us. That is part of the standard. And we don't have this same standard in our house. The standard in the house, the mans are supposed to be the ruler. But that's not the case in our houses. The case in our houses is exactly what Yahweh said. The women rule over you and children are your oppressors. But watch what it says. And kings shall be your nursing fathers. Their queens your nursing mothers. They shall bow down to you with their faces toward the earth and lick up the dust of your feet. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. In other words, that will be the standard. Because you got to have standards. And the standards is you only can have one head, one law, one ordinance, one way. How else can you have unity, which also means one? How else can you have togetherness, which means you together as one? You got to have a standard. And who will bring this standard? I'll show you who will bring this standard, but watch this. But you first got to know that a standard first must come. You got to accept that. How do you accept it? By humbling yourself and acknowledging that you're out of order. You're out of order. You have no order. And once you acknowledge this, then you can begin to make the crooked things straight and put everything in its proper order. And once you are able to do that, not only you will have order, but you also will have unity. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in Yakad, in Yakad. Watch this in the book of Isaiah 62. In the book of Isaiah 62. And watch what this says. And we're going to start reading at the 8th verse. Isaiah 62 and 8. Yahweh has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength, surely I will no more give your corn to be food for your enemies, And the sons of the stranger shall not drink new wine, for that which you have labored. But they that have gathered it shall eat it, and praise Yahweh. They that have brought it together shall drink it in the courts of my holiness. Go through the gates. Prepare you the way of the people. Cast up the highway. Gather out the stones. Lift up a standard for the people. Behold, Yahweh has proclaimed unto the end of the world. And say you to the daughter of Zion, behold, your salvation comes. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. We got to have standards. And a standard must be lifted up. And what is the standard? The standard is order. That order brings unity. And whatever you're doing, it's got to be put in order. And right now, you must admit, you must acknowledge that everything we're doing today is out of order, with the exception of going by the order of Yahweh. Even as we've been teaching you, showing you his order, something that nobody has never heard of until we start teaching it. Watch this in the book of Psalm 60, because somebody got to bring about standards. You think that we can just have unity by virtue of us just wanting it? No. You got to execute this thing. You got to do something. There's got to be a blueprint. And the blueprint is the word of Yahweh. But we got to understand it. In the book of Isaiah. I'm sorry, I said Isaiah 60, but where I want you to go is Psalm 60. Psalm 60, not Isaiah 60. And I want you to see what this says. We're talking about how good, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. But there are certain things that you got to understand to achieve this unity. The word, this word unity, in the way UNITY, that's only mentioned 3 times in the scriptures. Let me correct myself. It's only mentioned 1 time in the scriptures. 3 times in the whole Bible. That word. The 1 time that is mentioned in the scriptures is in Psalms 133. But the Hebrew word of that word, which is Yakad, is mentioned 142 times in the scriptures or in the Bible. In the scriptures. And 120 times is translated together. And that's why we're telling you what it means. It means together. You together. And right now, we're not together at all. We're out of order. And that's why it says, behold how pleasant and good, and how pleasant or how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. In other words, Yakad in Yakad. Watch this. Psalm 60. I'll start at the very first verse. To the chief musician upon Shushanadu, midterm of David to teach, when he strove with, let me get right to it. O Elohim, you have cast us off. You have scattered us. You have been displeased. Oh, turn yourself to us again. You have made the earth to tremble. You have broken it. Healed the breaches thereof, for it shakes. You have shown your people hard things. You have made us to drink the wine of astonishment. And that's what we're drinking today, the wine of astonishment. He cast us off. He's been displeased with us. He scattered us. So how do we come back together? How do we get this unity? Watch the fourth verse. You have given a banner. And what do you think this word banner means? Well, this word banner means standard. The same Hebrew word as standard. You have given a banner to them that fear you, that it may be displayed because of the truth. And we've been displaying this banner of truth. Why? Because we fear Yahweh. And yes, this is a hard thing to do, because now a lot of people will be mad at us because that's how it's supposed to be. That don't seem fair. Well, you just been bamboozled and tricked and shammed for so long, even the truth look crooked to you. But Yahweh said he will make the crooked things straight. Yahweh said he will magnify his law and make it honorable. And we need a standard. And the standard is how Yahweh will order or bring into order his kingdom so that you can have true unity, true togetherness. Somebody got to bring it in. Somebody got to teach it and show it. And then somebody also have to execute it. Watch what it says in the book of Isaiah 11. Still dealing with this standard, this banner. In some scriptures, it's called the ensign. But watch this, Isaiah 11. Because how can you have unity and you don't even have no standards? It ain't nothing together. How can you have unity and things are out of order? And you refuse to admit that things are out of order. So out of order, you will make being out of order good. Everything is good. We got it going on. You don't have nothing going on but confusion in your congregations, in your communities, in the streets, and in the home. And you're not ruling, because when you're ruling, you can make decisions, and your decisions that you make will be executed. Today, the decisions you make are challenged. The decisions that you make are put aside. The decisions that you make, people turn their back to you. Even the kids won't do and execute all the decisions that you make. They will ignore you. They will sass you. They will walk away from you. They will turn their back to you. They will do all kind of things. And yes, you might chastise them, but then they'll go right back tomorrow and do the same thing. And then you got somebody in the home that will allow it. Oh, it's okay. It's all right. And you call that order? That's not order at all. That's confusion. That's not being together. That's discord. Watch what it says in the book Isaiah, the 11th chapter. And we're going to start reading in the 10th verse and watch what it says. And in that day, there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. What's that ensign? In other words, which shall stand as the standard for the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek. And why are they going to seek it? Because now they understand. And what's the word Gentile? The word Gentile comes from the Hebrew word goyim, which means nations. They're going to understand. They're going to see, okay, I can see the standard with this thing. I can see how this is supposed to operate. I can see how this thing is supposed to be executed. And his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt and Pathros, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the island of the sea. And he shall set up a standard, which means ensign, for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth, because we must have standards. How else can we have unity? Yakad. How else can we be Echad, which means one? Yakad, which means together. We must have a standard. Somebody must do the hard work of bringing the standard to bear. And how do they do that? By bringing things into order. Things must have order, because we are totally out of order. And the only way that can happen, we got to have a mind of a king, even though we must have a heart of a servant. And only the wise can do such a thing. And everybody is not seeking wisdom to do such a thing. And I told you we got to have a mind of a king to have standards, to bring about a standard. Because, see, a king can say something and it goes down. It happens. It's executed. That's why we got to have a mind of a king, because we got to be able to demand things so that things can go down and happen, and then it becomes the standard. It becomes the order in which we do it. Like our father Abraham. And watch what Yahweh said about Abraham in the book of Genesis, the 18th chapter. So you can see what a standard looked like. In the book of Genesis 18, and again, I know people don't like this, because then that's too much authority. That's too much this, that's too, what if he ain't right, and what if he ain't this, and what if he ain't that? But what if he is? In other words, you know right from wrong and he don't. You know what's best and he don't. That's why we in the situation and the condition that we're in today. No unity. No order. And now what we see in the world today, disorder, discord, and no unity. Genesis, the 18th chapter. And watch what it says in the 17th verse. And Yahweh said, should I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation. And all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. And if they all going to be blessed in him, as Yahweh has said, then this man got to have everything together. He got to have some order. And he did. Because watch what it says. 19th verse. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. In other words, they're going to have order. And Abraham had order in his house. And the buck stopped with him. And he made the decisions, and they flowed like a mighty river. And that's not what I'm saying. That's what Yahweh said. And why? Because all through the scriptures, you know what Abraham was called? He was not only the first man called a prophet in the scriptures, but he also was called a mighty prince. And might have been the first one called a mighty prince in the scriptures. I'm going to search that one out too. But make no mistake about it, he was definitely called a mighty prince. And when you're ruling that way, you got to have order. And if you got order, you got unity. And Abraham had unity. Let me show you this other king whose kingdom was compromised, not by one of his subjects. His kingdom was not compromised by one of his enemies. His kingdom was not compromised because of one of his children, like in the case of David, which was terrible. But let me show you why his kingdom was almost compromised. In the book of Esther, turn there, and show you how he seen this thing and what he would do as a result of it. And not what he would do, and not what he did, even though this was a Babylonian king. This is something that Yahweh would do. Because who came in and made the crooked thing straight? Who did Yahweh use to come in to bring about order? And really not order, because the king did that. But he brought about, she brought about something greater than order. She brought about salvation for these people. And who was these people? The children of Israel. As soon as I'm able to find Esther in my book, I'm going to turn there. Alrighty. We're in the book of Esther, and we're going to start reading in the first chapter of Esther, the very first verse. And watch what it says. And we're talking about, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And I'm here to tell you, there is no unity. There is no togetherness. There is no oneness without the top. without things flowing down from the top. That's why I'm talking about the kings today. Man got to have a mind of a king, but yet a heart of a servant. Watch what it says in Esther, the first chapter, the very first verse. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces, that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all the princes in service, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days are expired, the king made a feast to all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both to the great, small, 7 days, in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white and green and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen, purple to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red, blue, and white, black, and marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law. Because it's okay to drink. It's okay for kings to drink. But you got to do it according to the law. None did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Also Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. And on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehumanim, Bizdad, and Harbana, Bigdad, and Abagdad, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very angry, and his anger burned in him. And was he justified? Of course he was justified, because this showed discord. This showed discord. And you're supposed to be about unity. And this was not unity at all. And this is what is happening in the houses today. This discord is being shown every single day. Watch what it says. The king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's matter to all that knew law and judgment. And next to him was Karshina, Shetha, and Amatha, Tarshi, Meres, Marcina, Mumukin, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do to the queen Vashti according to the law? Because she has not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlain. And Mumukin answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen has not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. In other words, they saying, look, she's just didn't wrong the king. She wronged everybody in the provinces. How could she do that? She was just as insolent to her husband. How can that affect everything? Everybody that watch her, everybody that respect her, everybody that's honor her, and particularly her children, and they think she can do it, then why can't they? If she can have this discord, why can't they? If she can be disunified, why can't they? Watch what it says. 17th verse. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad to all women, so that they shall despise their husband in their eyes, when it shall be reported. The king of Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. In other words, that's the second time he called for her, and she still didn't come. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia immediately say this day to all the king princes which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it pleases the king, let there go a royal commandment from him. Let it be written among the laws of Persians and Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti comes no more before the king of Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate to another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the same pleased the king and the princes. And the king did according to the word of Memucan. In other words, they set a standard. A standard went forth. Watch what it says, 22nd verse. For he sent letters into all the king provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. And ain't that what Yahweh said? That every man shall bear rule in his own house? And I know we got women right now talking about, well, what if it's not his house? Insolent. Discord. And watch what it says in Esther, the 2nd chapter. Because a standard must take place. Watch what it says. Esther, the 2nd chapter, the 1st verse. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and what was the decree against her. In other words, he started thinking, man, I love this woman, and I'm thinking about this, and she made a mistake, and she was insolent. It was real bad, and she didn't come, and she is a beautiful woman, and I love her. My goodness, now what I'm going to do? And I already wrote in law, I can't even see this woman. In other words, you start having regrets. But this is what they would do. They would do what Job said, the wisdom that Job got from the Most High, which he knew. Yahweh giveth, and Yahweh taketh. Watch what it says in the 2nd verse. Then said the king's servants that ministered to him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins to Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, to the custody of each the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them, and let the maiden, which pleases the king, be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. And of course, yes, this was set up by Yahweh. And why? Because not only he was saving the children of Israel, which will find themselves in danger, about to be destroyed in Babylon, and he will use this very wise, virtuous, beautiful woman to bring about salvation in Babylon, but the instrument that he used was the insolent woman named Vashti that would show discord, that would show dishonor to her husband, to the extent that all the chamberlains, seeing this discord, this dishonor, would permeate all throughout the 127 provinces. And they had to put this thing to stop. This was their mission, but Yahweh's mission was to save Israel. And the only thing that can stop this thing, the only thing that can bring something good and pleasant to this matter was order, was a standard. And once the standard went forth, order came into existence. And once there was order, there was unity and celebration. And we got to have order. If you look at the earth today in the book of Isaiah 24, watch the earth today. And this is what we have to admit as men. And Yahweh says, show yourself a man and admit that you don't have no order in your communities, in your house. You don't have no order in most places where your presence is. But show yourself a man and get some order. How do you do it? By the word of Yahweh. By teaching and executing the order of Yahweh. Putting things back into its proper place so that you can have unity. The scripture says wisdom is better than weapons of war. So you got to have wisdom. For it is the glory of Yahweh to conceal a thing, to conceal a matter. But it's the honor of kings to search it out. So now you got to search out these great hidden things, hidden treasures, if you want to have true unity, which comes from order. In the book of Isaiah 24, the 4th verse, the earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. And watch what it says. The haughty people of the earth do languish. Did not Mowreh IshYAH bring to you how haughty the people are in the earth? How the first thing that Yahweh talked about The thing he hate in Proverbs, the 6th chapter, is a proud look. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. And that's what we have today. Very few men, and not enough men that will show themselves to be men, as David told his son. This is what we got to do. This is what stands before us. And if we are about the Most High, the true and living Elohim, then we will do it, we will order it, we will establish it, and show ourselves to be a man. So until tomorrow, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom.
I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit.